Hey guys, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Desiree. I've been in the industry for 8 years. So, being self-employed, being a business owner, being a hairstylist, we have so many different titles that fall under what we do in this industry. I would like to pass along any education, inspiration, and motivation towards building up your business and being successful. So, in today's video, I'm going to be discussing what it's like being a suite renter versus what it's like being a station renter and how to determine which one is going to best suit you and your needs. Stay tuned. So when you guys are getting into business for yourself, there's so many different options and so many different routes you can take when you're becoming a stylist, a lash tech, nail tech. There's so many different routes you can go, whether it's commission, whether you're renting a suite, whether you're opening up your own space. So I'm going to talk about my personal experience being a stylist and what it was like for me renting a station versus being a suite owner slash suite renter, and the pros and cons for me and what I've experienced going through those different channels. So when I first started out, I rented a station. I did start in a smaller salon, which was about, I want to say, 6 to 8 chairs. It was a little bit more of a older environment, and it wasn't quite modern and up to date, but it was pretty affordable. So I started there to build up my business and build up my clientele, and it was something that I could manage financially. When you're first starting out, sometimes you can't handle huge financial obligations, paying super expensive rent. So you're just looking for something that's going to fit your budget, which is totally fine because you have to start somewhere, get the experience, and learn what it's like to run a business before you take on a huge overhead. So you don't have to completely come right out of the gates owning a salon, renting a suite. It's okay to take your time. It's okay to get comfortable paying rent. It's a huge transition going from being an employee somewhere where you're getting paid weekly to owning a business where you're paying yourself. You don't have a consistent pay frequency in the beginning because you're building your clientele on top of having to pay rent for where you work, pay for supplies. So take your time. It's okay to start small. So I did start small, renting a station in a smaller salon. At the time, I was paying $300 a month, which blows my mind because it's crazy to even say that number out loud versus what I spend now. It was a good experience as far as learning and kind of understanding what it's like being a booth renter. From that salon, I did leave and move to a larger salon where I paid much more in rent. It was a more of an updated environment, bigger salon. There's about 12 chairs. So the second salon I went to, if I remember correctly, I think I was paying like 190 a week, and I was full time. I've always been full time at all the stations I rented. So I went from paying $300 a month, super cheap, to upgrading to a bigger salon, paying $190 a week. So I mean, you do the numbers, it's weekly, whether it's 4 weeks or 5 weeks, you're paying anywhere from $800 to over $1,000 a month in rent. I was very overwhelmed when I made that transition. Just being a newer stylist and I was still building, I took the leap because I was ready to move to a newer environment, a salon that had more foot traffic. It was good. It was another opportunity for me as well to build myself up. That salon I had moved to did have a decent amount of foot traffic and phone calls. So I was able to take walk-ins and continue to build up my skill set, build up my clientele, promote myself on social media. But once again, when you're renting a station and you're in a salon environment, you have to keep in mind that there's a culture to everywhere you work. Everywhere you go, there's a different vibe, there's a different atmosphere, there's a different aesthetic, there's different personalities. So you have to try out what is going to work for you. Sometimes things aren't going to work, sometimes they are going to work. I stayed at that salon for about a year, and then I upgraded again to an even bigger salon and an even better location, which I am super thankful for the opportunity from that salon owner. It couldn't have came at a better time. So from that second salon I rented at, I moved up to a bigger salon. So that salon I had moved to was the last salon that I rented a station at. And that was such a big turning point in my career. That salon, I want to say we had about maybe 25 stations, maybe a little bit more. It was a huge salon. There was a ton of people. And, once again, everywhere you work, you're going to work around different personalities, different salon owners, different environments. So that salon for me was, it was a huge turning point because I realized at that point, once I moved to that salon, I didn't need to take walk-ins anymore. I felt pretty set in my clientele. I felt pretty established. And my business was functioning and it was healthy, and I had a good amount of referrals. I had a good amount of new clients coming in. So once I hit my third salon where I rented a station and I started to feel like my business was dialing in more, my books were staying consistently filled, that's when I started to kind of get the itch to want to open up a salon suite. And I started kind of keeping my eyes peeled, looking around. And at the time when I had wanted to do that, during 2020, when I decided I wanted to get a salon suite, there wasn't a lot of options here in Stockton. There's a ton now over the last couple of years. A lot of people have opened up suites. So there's a lot more competition versus 3 years ago. So there wasn't anything available at the time. So I was just renting my station, just kind of waiting, saving my money, trying to figure out what my next step was. And then towards the middle to end of 2020 is when where I work now started pre-leasing. So I hopped on it, reached out to the owner here, asked him if he had any rooms available, and I kind of went through the whole process of starting the rental slash lease a contract agreement to getting my suite, which I was super nerve-wracked because when you move into a suite, there's so many other responsibilities you have in your plate. Like, I knew I wanted the responsibility. I knew I wanted to grow. I knew I wanted to move into being in control of my own environment, having my own aesthetic, creating my own culture, setting my own business hours, my own days, being more in control of like my overall business and like separating myself as an individual, versus like when you're in a salon, usually you're an individual business, but then you're still having to be cohesive with the salon aesthetic because the owner picks the salon aesthetic. The owner typically will set the days that the station renters can come in and work. Sometimes the owners will set the hours, sometimes they won't. I believe legally they're not allowed to set the hours, but I do know some owners who will set time frames that the renters can be inside the building. So for me, ultimately, I just wanted to be in full control of my business and be a full independent individual and create my own environment. So that's what pushed me to want to get my suite. So here we are, end of 2020. I'm starting the process of getting into my studio. I have to leave my deposit. I have to start ordering my furniture. I have to start getting the ball rolling to get my business set up to be able to start taking clients for the beginning of 2021. So I love being in my suite now. I've been in here going on 3 years. And I mean, honestly, to tell you the truth, like this last 3 years has flown by so fast. Like I don't even feel like it's been 3 years that I've been in here. It's been super enjoyable. And like I really love it because it allows me to really be a boss, be a CEO, be in control of my business. Like I get to decorate my studio how I like it. I get to sell the products that I want to sell. I get to play the kind of music that I want. I'm very in control of like the schedule I work, the days I work, the prices I set. I don't have to run anything by anybody. So like for me, that's such a huge pro of being a studio slash suite owner, renter, is that you're in full control of your business. Now, give or take, depending on where you're at in your career, it's not always a right or a wrong to want to rent a station or to want to be in a studio. It's really whatever works best for you. And for me personally, like I couldn't have got straight out of school and went straight into being a studio owner because there's just so much in between that you have to learn and you have to understand. You have to build a clientele. I'm not saying it's impossible because I have seen plenty of girls do it where they leave school and go straight into studios. But for me personally, working in different salon environments, working in different size salons, working around different people, working for different owners, it really helped to like mold me and help me to understand what I was wanting and what I was looking for out of my business. So for any of you who are new to the industry or you've been in the industry for a while and you're not quite sure where you want to head, I always recommend to try everything out, give it a shot, see the pros and cons, and figure out what's going to work best for you. So if you're new in the industry and you're building a clientele, and my preference, I feel like renting a station is always awesome because typically when you're renting a station, the overhead's a lot lower. The salons that rent typically have foot traffic to help you build your clientele. They'll help you promote yourself on social media. And then when you get to that other flip side of it, where you want to be in a studio, you have to market yourself, you have to promote yourself, you have to have already a pretty much established business and clientele and a flow of income coming in because you're paying for everything behind the scenes. So renting a station, the salon owners typically provide back bar, they provide towels, they cover cleaning services, towel services, versus when you're in a studio suite, you have to cover your marketing, you have to cover your cleaning, your towels, your back bar products. So there's more responsibility in that aspect. But to me, it's totally worth it because I'm finally at that place in my business where I feel comfortable taking on those added responsibilities. And it's nice being a studio suite owner because you're not responsible for anybody else. You're only responsible for you and you create the type of environment you want to be in. So like, I really love it. My clients love it. We can really get into some deep conversations. Like they feel a lot more comfortable and like at peace knowing that we're in the privacy of a studio. And we still have that salon environment. There's a ton of girls in here. They all have rooms. We have communal areas where we have like a communal lobby, a communal break room. We have a communal processing area. So you're not necessarily like isolated. You still have people around you, but it's nice because you're in control of your environment. And studios come in all shapes and forms. Depending on what city you live in, studios can be upstairs, downstairs. They can have huge windows. They can be smaller. They can be bigger. Every studio is unique in its own way. So what I really love is that studios offer a variety of environments and they offer a variety of price points as well, depending on what location you're looking for. Versus when you're in a salon and you're at a station, you're typically either going to be part-time or full-time. And then you're just kind of basing your business off of the salon and like the location they're in, the type of aesthetic they have. So if you're going to rent, I would recommend find a salon that has high foot traffic, that's going to market you, help you build, help you bring clients into your chair, and find an environment that you like working in. You want to work in a salon where the environment's clean, it's up to date, things are maintained. Those are key things to look out for. An owner that's very responsive when it comes to repairs and concerns. And then if you move over into the suite renting side, you want to have a building owner that's responsive, that's able to respond to any questions, concerns. You want a location that's safe, that has plenty of parking. And once again, the cleanliness is super important. So for me, when I'm looking for a place that I want to lease, I want to make sure that that environment is maintained. I want to make sure that it's in a good location. And I want to make sure that my clients enjoy that environment as well. So those are some things to look out for, some pros and cons, just some things that I would take into consideration when you're trying to figure out whether you want to rent a station or be a suite owner. I hope this helped you guys out. Stay tuned for my next one.